Welcome back! In the last episode, we learned about the common causes of youth homelessness. In today's episode, we will dive into the steps of prevention and initiatives taken to reduce the risk of homelessness. I hope you enjoy and learn a lot. According to the National Alliance to End Homelessness, in order to end homelessness for youth and young adults, they must have access to stable housing, connections to supportive and caring adults, and access to mainstream services that will get them onto the right path. The NAEH suggests the initial intervention for youth experiencing homelessness to be reunification with family or support system, but only when it is safe to do so. The return home to families can be very challenging, but there are numerous programs that aim to facilitate that process, such as the Basic Center program. The BCP consists of community-based programs that meet immediate needs of runaway and homeless youth that are under 18 years old. They also strongly prioritize family reunification or finding appropriate alternative placements. Some services include up to 21 days of shelter, food, clothing, and medical care, individual, group, and family counseling, crisis intervention, recreation programs, and aftercare services for youth after they leave the shelter. With family problems being one of the main causes of youth homelessness, fostering that close connection and bond can be a key factor in prevention. Also, intervening early can greatly prevent complete separation altogether. The next factor in preventing youth homelessness is to improve the crisis response. A larger investment from the local, state, and federal government would be significant in reducing the risk of youth homelessness. There have been several initiatives, the first being the 2010 Opening Doors Strategic Plan to End Homelessness, developed by the United States Interagency Council on Homelessness. According to Youth.gov, this plan identifies and addresses 6 main areas to prevent homelessness: individualized goal-based service planning, ongoing support services connected to mainstream resources, independent living skills training, connection to supportive and trustworthy adults, employment and education, and housing. Stability, safety, and connections with families are also stressed, but only when appropriate. Here is the plan of action visual that they have provided. As you can see, it first begins with prevention, identification, and early identification in areas such as child welfare, criminal justice, and schools, then moves on to coordinated entry and assessment, which consists of advancing strategies for screening and assessment tools, and ensuring that youth at risk of or experiencing homelessness have access to programs and services, then emergency and crisis response, or providing low-barrier emergency and crisis services that can address needs and connect youth with services and various housing options, and finally, tailored services and long-term housing solutions. There are also numerous federal programs such as the Transition Living Program, which provides long-term residential services to homeless youth between the ages of 16 and 22, the Street Outreach Program, which helps homeless, runaway, and street youth find stable housing and services, and HUD Homeless and Housing Programs, which helps homeless individuals and families in quickly transitioning to self-sufficiency and permanent housing. Communities could also contribute greatly in addressing this problem, especially in providing shelter for youth. More details and information about many other programs can be found in the video in the series titled Resources or in the link in the description below. Next is expanding and improving the effectiveness of housing programs for young adults. When family reunification is not possible, providing youth with short and long-term housing options is very important. A recent innovation that has been helping youths all around the country is something called rapid rehousing. RRH provides short-term rental assistance and services with the goals of helping people quickly attain housing, increase self-sufficiency, and remain housed. Preconditions such as employment, income, absence of criminal record, or sobriety are not required, and their resources and services, more often than not, are provided to specifically suit the needs of the person. As said by the NAEH, RRH is a primary solution to the issue of homelessness. This is because it is very effective in getting the homeless into housing and keeping them there, which allows them to be in a more stable position to address other challenges such as finding employment or fighting addiction. It is also suitable for many types of circumstances such as those with low income or those who have experienced domestic violence. If you would like to know more details about rapid rehousing, please check out our video titled Resources or the NEH website. Another great plan of action is a new HUD, COC, THRRH, or Continuum of Care Transitional Housing Rapid Rehousing Joint Component, which combines aspects of rapid rehousing with transitional housing. Although RRH is a very reliable source for youth, there is still a lack of crisis housing, so this plan aims to increase the crisis housing capacity of a community. According to the NEH, such projects should at the very least include 1. A housing-first approach with youth-led services, a focus on moving into permanent housing very quickly, no requirements or preconditions necessary to receive help or services, and low barriers to entry, meaning youth can be helped even if they have pets or partners. 2. Youth choice, meaning youth have a say in decision in everything from choosing their permanent housing, determining when to exit crisis housing, when to move on to the ROH part of the model, not the program itself, and whether to skip TH or not. 3. Connections to resources and services for youth to achieve their goals. And 4. Ensuring to target and prioritize youth with the highest needs, such as those who are unsheltered, have been homeless for a long time or repeatedly, have experienced violence or harm, or have high barriers in the way of obtaining permanent housing. This plan is very beneficial for communities who have large numbers of unsheltered youth, do not have safe, low-barrier crisis housing options for youth, offer existing crisis or temporary housing stays that are only brief, or have existing TH projects that aren't able to provide financial assistance for permanent housing. The final initiative stated by the NEH is improving the systemic response. As said by USICH in their Opening Doors plan, unlike child welfare or juvenile justice systems, homeless youth services are not provided through a single coordinated system of supports funded by a state or federal agency. There are varied and unique needs of youth homeless experiences that require a great range of intervention and solutions that no single funding stream can provide. Therefore, a collaboration across federal, state, and local partners is needed to provide this full range of solutions in our communities. A collaborative response in the communities must, according to USICH, prevent youth from becoming homeless by identifying and working with families who are at risk of fracturing, effectively identify and engage youth at risk for or actually experiencing homelessness and connect them with trauma-informed, culturally appropriate, and developmentally and age-appropriate interventions, intervene early when youth do become homeless and work towards family reunification when safe and appropriate, develop coordinated entry systems to identify youth for appropriate types of assistance and to prioritize resources for the most vulnerable youth, ensure access to safe shelter and emergency services when needed, ensure that assessments respond to the unique needs and circumstances of youth, and emphasize strong connections to and supportive exits from mainstream systems when needed, create individualized service and housing options tailored to the needs of each youth, and include measurable outcomes across key indicators of performance, including education and employment. As we learned in previous episodes, LGBTQ+ youth who have experience with the child welfare and justice systems, and parenting teens are at a much higher risk of falling into homelessness. Therefore, numerous organizations make an effort to address the issue by directly improving institutions such as public schools, the juvenile justice system, and child welfare services, and identify early risk individuals. The first example of such a strategy is one implemented by the Raikes Foundation. According to their website, they have a 2-step plan of action. 1. Prevention and early intervention. Reach people who are at risk at a young age in order to prevent them from ever experiencing homelessness. And 2. Rapid response to crisis. Ensure the community has the resources and tools to respond rapidly and effectively for youth already experiencing homelessness. They strongly believe that ending youth homelessness starts with preventing homelessness from ever occurring, so the faster crisis response systems can identify and match a young person with developmentally appropriate, trauma-informed services, the sooner that young person can get back on the path towards stability. More specifically, in public schools, teachers and staff can learn to help identify students who are facing crises and connect them to services such as housing, counseling, and legal assistance. In child welfare systems, with introduced resources and improved coordination among youth-serving agencies, child welfare and foster care can help to greatly prevent youth homelessness. And finally, in the juvenile justice system, they state that law enforcement, probation officers, prosecutors, defense attorneys, and judges can break the cycle by linking young people to support services such as housing, education, and employment opportunities. With this foster collaboration, the Raikes Foundation believes that high-risk youth can be identified and helped very early, reducing the possibility of homelessness. Let's take a recap on the various ways that the youth homelessness issue can be addressed. In order to end homelessness for youth and young adults, they must have access to stable housing and finances, connections to supportive adults, and the ability to be assisted by a variety of services to help them get back onto the right path, such as education, employment, rehabilitation, etc. Next, there are also numerous specific ways that the homeless youth can be helped directly, such as by reuniting them with family, improving the crisis response, improving housing programs, and improving the systemic response. Finally, the last way of addressing and preventing youth homelessness is identifying early risk individuals and directly improving institutions to help those youth get back onto the right track and not fall into homelessness. In the next episode, we will look into some resources available for the homeless youth population and families. Thank you so much for joining me in episode 3, and I hope you have a wonderful day.